No, he's the president?
Tell him who it is.
Antonio Brown?
Antonio who?
Brown? No.
Antonio Brown.
No.
Yes.
I will not listen to anybody tell me that Jaylen Brown is smart ever again.
That's what I was about to say.
I can't. I'm sorry. I don't give a damn how many books he read or how many people in media that he done cornered and said something smart to. I cannot entrust my career to Antonio Brown. He just had his out in Dubai.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. It is Foxworth Friday. Domonique Foxworth, what's going on?
Not much, man. Looking forward to the weekend. Tired this week. I don't know why.
Yeah, man. We got a lot to talk about here. We're going to get into a little Aaron Rodgers, a little Russell Westbrook. We get an opportunity too, but I want to start here. You think your mama would ever send you to Kanye High?
They shutting down Donda Academy. I hope not. I mean, not. I hope not. I know not. My mother would never do anything like that. She found a magnet school for me and my brother to go to because our homeschool was not graduating people as well as they was sending people to other institutions. So she was like, y'all gonna get up at 5:30 and go to this bus stop so that y'all can go to the magnet school where they actually doing something, people actually learning things. So hell no, she would not send me to an unaccredited Donda Academy.
It would be so interesting because I think, as I've told a lot of you guys before, my mama kind of grew up with Donda West in Oklahoma City, and I imagine that, like, if they had stayed in touch longer or whatever, and I was school age and around, that Kanye would come and make the pitch. And as some of you know, my mother is she's retired now. She's a college professor, but she's the like loving, stern mother hen type. And I just imagine, because I've seen this look as he tries to explain this, the look that she gives him, it would be very similar to Gayle King with R. Kelly. All right. Like it would be a whole lot of that. But there's a sports tie into this, which is that a big thing that Kanye was trying to do with that school was to try to build an athletic powerhouse. And they got some big time basketball players who go to that school, and they got a note that was like, ain't no school. Not today, not tomorrow. Like, what do you do in the middle of October and there ain't no school no more? I'm trying to graduate, dog. Like, all of those things that come into it. And again, if you're a hooper and you were thinking about going to college, you kind of need a diploma in order to do that.
Well, I mean, things are changing around college and professional basketball. So maybe the Hoopers got another route to go, but you also do not. I mean, I guess you can get a GED or you can find somewhere else to get a high school diploma. But I mean, the basketball players, somebody gonna add them to their school if they're looking for it. The local public school is gonna be happy to have a 6'9" dude with handles.
But they coming from an unaccredited school.
That's true. That is true. So where they figured out, man. It's one thing I found out when I was trying to graduate early from high school so I could start at Maryland early. I found out that the bar is a lot lower than you think. They give you all this stuff that you think you got to pass, and then you realize, or at least I found out early in my senior year when Phillip Rivers had done it the year before. I think he was the first player to do that like early admission thing, and then I was like, I want to do that. So me and my coach and my parents looked into it, and I was like, oh, I could already be graduated. Like, I'm just going to school because they say to. I'd already finished all the like. It's so basic what you have to do.
All you need is English foreign government that last year. That's all you need. But the problem is that's that last year. If your English 3 don't count, what are you supposed to do? You're gonna go to the new school. What are you taking? English 1, English 2, English 3, English 4, algebra, geometry.
Oh,
damn, biology again. Yeah, I mean, like what?
Can you test out of these things? Like maybe they actually learning things in Donda. I figured it's a question that It's like, can they just take a test and I mean, I'm hoping they actually learn things in Donda.
That's what I was about to say, Domonique. It is again an unaccredited school.
So you said conspiracy theories 101 ain't gonna help you in the public school?
like if the test is, do you know every word to every song on Jesus? Yeah, maybe you got an opportunity, but like I look at this from the standpoint of the basketball players, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever get a chance, go to basketballreference.com and pull up any year or any player that you can think of, in these modern times. And so I say to do that because once you do, Basketball Reference will give you their whole recruiting class, basically, like the top 100 of their recruiting class. So you go there and then sort that recruiting class by like games played, minutes played, win shares, or whatever it is. And you get a handle on just how few players per year who go to high school in the United States become NBA players, like not play in the NBA, become NBA players. And you'll also see how many of those who don't become NBA players are ranked number 6 in their class, number 8 in their class, number 13 in their class, right? Like the margin between like the second best player and the 12th best player, it might not be that wide. You feel me? And so making these decisions in high school on the basis of creating an NBA star is largely a foolhardy mission. Like if you're not talking about one of these guaranteed types or somebody 7 feet tall, right, where there's just always going to be a place for you, you playing a bad game. So even if this wasn't Kanye's thing could have easily been a Bishop Sycamore type of situation. Like obviously not on the resource end, but it easily could have been a con or whatever because Kanye don't know nothing about running no school. Like the room for disaster on this was so high. And I'm trying to figure out what the payoff is. Because let me tell you something about basketball. If you are good, they don't care where you went to school. They don't care about any of these things. And whenever I see these people who move heaven and earth to get high school athletes into these places in the name of going to the next level, I'm like, I really don't think y'all are doing this right. And I mean this for the people that go to IMG and, the schools that are considered to be more reputable on this front, making a move for basketball based on the school. What they care about is your tools.
Right.
That's about it.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And obviously, like I mentioned, my mom sent us to a magnet school. The football program was 2 years old when I got there. They had one team. They played varsity and JV. When I got there, it was the first year that they divided the two. So we were not a power. But if you balling, they going to find you. But the argument, I think, for going to these academies, and it's much harder to become an NBA player than an NFL player. Like I guess you could go by size or position, but the number of people that are trying to get to the NBA because it's a global game and because it's a cheap game to play, the number of people trying to get to the NBA is much larger, and the number of spots is much smaller. And if you start to break it down by like what spots you can play by height, it gets even smaller. So it's really, really hard. So I think that's probably the motivation is like, if this gives me a 0.5% better chance, not because of the exposure, but also because of the exposure, but mostly because of the refining that might take place at an academy like IMG, like a reputable place where they got real legitimate coaches and you're playing against the best competition out there. I think that's the argument for it. But then you can just point at Zion and said, you just bang on little white boys and they're gonna find you.
Yeah, like I think there's also with the Donda thing, the NIL element and the thought that there'll be this money that's waiting on you. And I have to be careful when I talk about these things with money because I didn't grow up rich, but I never grew up thinking about what money my parents did or didn't have. You know what I mean? Like it was a fairly perfect level of security. And so I'm careful about judging the decisions that people who don't have money make in the name of getting money. But I feel like in my travels, and I think you probably feel the same way about this from seeing it, if you think that NIL money that your kid is going to get at this young age is going to be the nest egg for the future, maybe if you're willing or you got the kind of parental relationship where you can just tell them what to do, and that's what it's going to be. But otherwise, that money getting blown. Like no matter how old you are at that young age, that money is getting blown. You are not going to have it for very long. So I don't even know if the people who are going for the NIL money, if it's really actually accomplishing what you hope for in the name of doing all these things. Like, I just don't, it troubles me the idea that we make so many decisions now for teenagers in the name of money. Like, that's just a terrible play. Like, I look at that overtime elite thing, like that dude, Mikey Williams, that we heard so much about a couple years ago. Go look where he is on the recruiting list, man. It don't look like that dude is ever going to play NBA basketball. Because one thing about the dudes in the 40s who turn into players, they didn't start in the top 5, then go to the 40s and then become players, right? Like, these are guys that creep up and then it just goes, as it plays. And so I just look at how people are making these moves for these kids, and the purpose of playing these games at that level is not this, right? It's just that the money is so big now that you really can't blame people in a way for rolling the dice and giving it a try. I just have no reason to believe that it's creating happier kids. Like, I figured out when I was like cover Carolina and started looking at recruiting stuff and then look at how those guys kicked it once they got into college. Once you transfer schools to play ball, it becomes a job. Yeah. Like, you notice them prep school kids always itching to get out of college and go to the NBA, right? Because it's already been a job for them. It's like, okay, where's the next basketball team for me to go play for?
I don't know any legitimate basketball players where it doesn't become a job in their teenage years. Like, it has to. I mean, these AAU, they don't want to play every day. Don't nobody want to play every day. I don't give a damn what they tell you. Every day, all year long, like that's work. Refining themselves, like that's work. It's not what I grew up doing. And it's not what most people grew up doing. It's not what most people who are growing up now doing. These guys are professionals, whether they're getting paid or not. They've already set this as a career goal and they're making decisions to optimize for it. To go back to your point about the NIL money being attractive, like I get that. One of the hardest things I think about decision making in general is there are trade-offs in every decision that you make, and they're not always obvious. And I think we can convince ourselves that they don't exist. So anyone who you would ask who's like going for some NIL money or who's taking an opportunity for the money now, I don't think that they are fully aware of what they're giving up, because it's not in a written contract and they haven't sat down and put the pros and cons, or they convince themselves that they can do both. Because like the overtime elite is like, yeah, we're going to teach you these life skills also. So you're like, man, I'm getting an education. That's different than getting a degree. And whether you learn anything in college or not, you have a degree or you have some credits towards a degree, or you're even admitted into a school that you may not have, like me. I wouldn't have gotten admitted to all the schools that I got scholarship offers to. Like, I just wouldn't have. My grades weren't that good. But I think that that's a hard thing, just any decision making, and for kids to be in that situation, and parents who oftentimes don't have the same like world experience to be sitting down and making a decision and not aware of the trade-offs, I think is pretty dangerous. And I read an article this morning on The Intercept about the Matt Damon crypto ad and how much people, and I'm a naturally cynical person, which is probably cost me some opportunities here or there, but it's probably saved me many times too. But when people start coming to me with opportunities, my first thought is, this is some bull. Like, that's the first thing, and it's probably bad. I remember a couple of my friends from school went off and got into that crypto stuff early, and I remember saying, no, the whole reason why I said to them, the whole reason why I came to business school was so I could not invest in some scheme that I don't understand. And then they made a bunch of money. That's fine. And I missed out on that. But right now, that article showed that everybody who got in, if that Super Bowl ad with Matt Damon was the like impetus for you to get in, you done lost 70%.
Yep. Look, there's a television show on HBO called Game Theory. They did a long thing about the crypto card and how athletes when you fortune favors the brave. That is not how I like to think about my money, guys. And again, we're talking about like parents helping these kids make decisions. And I mean, I'm gonna be frank with you. if your mama thought it was okay, and your daddy too thought it was okay to send you to Kanye Tech, then I just don't believe that those are people that are qualified to help you make any decisions from here until the rest of your life. I don't. In fact, I think somebody might need to show up and leave with a kid.
Yeah, so that's all about like trafficking on cachet. And I mean, it's not fair. I haven't been there. I don't know what they're teaching. The fact that they're unaccredited is enough, I think, for me to be like super skeptical. But like that, and like his agency too. Like Jaylen Brown is out on that. Aaron Donald is out on that. Go ahead.
Let's get to that right now, because I'd almost forgot. And did you know before this week that the president of Donda Sports? Oh, you haven't seen this? Okay. I want you to think of somebody that we've talked about a lot in sports in the last few years, who would be the last person that you would put in charge of anything, but you could see being the first person Kanye would put in charge of something.
Man, I'm gonna need a better hint. There's a lot of people that Urban Meyer comes to mind, but I'm sure that he's not the one.
Okay, I don't know if the hints are going to get us here. The president of Donda Sports put out a statement this week to say that he would be sticking with Donda Sports in spite of the anti-Semitism and the backlash to Kanye West. That person also sends out tweets every time something goes bad for the last NFL team for whom he played, directed specifically toward the quarterback who allowed him to live in his home.
No, he's the president?
Tell him who it is.
Antonio Brown?
Antonio who?
Brown? No.
Antonio Brown.
No.
Yes.
I will not listen to anybody tell me that Jaylen Brown is smart ever again.
That's what I was about to say.
I can't. I'm sorry. I don't give a damn how many books he read or how many people in media that he uncornered and said something smart to. I cannot entrust my career to Antonio Brown. He just had his out in Dubai.
Antonio Brown, the president of Donda Sports. Like, when I looked up and saw that Aaron Donald and Jaylen Brown were like, yo, we're not doing this Donda Sports thing anymore, I was like, wow, that's interesting that you were doing it in the first place. Because I'm sure they got like a legit, they get legitimate agents to run these things. Right. But can you imagine being a legitimate agent and now a word from our president, and then Antonio Brown show up?
What are they like? It's hard for me to accept, and I'm sure I don't know who the agents are, so I don't want to be disrespectful to them. But it's hard for you to make a sense to say they're a legitimate agent and also they be willing to work under Antonio Brown. So maybe there's enough money or enough opportunity, or maybe they got to skip the line. There had to be some benefit, but it ain't big enough for me to entrust anything to anyone who would be like, yeah, that's my boss.
Dog, I refuse to believe that he was the president of Donda Sports. I was like, this just has to be some shit that he's saying, right? Like, there's no possible way that this is the case. And Kanye, I mean, I've gone out of my way to not talk about Kanye just because I find him to be unserious and thereby unimportant. And I'm not sure that he has any actual influence on anybody with the things that he is doing, right? Like, he's a lightning rod and he gets people to talk about him and it just gets people all stirred up. But to me, it feels like a very masturbatory endeavor. Like, it's not producing anything. So I, by and large, let him go, right? I mean, I feel like what Kanye is doing right now, and I mean, the man's got his own issues. I don't know where the issues start and end, right? Like, I don't want to get into the weeds of that part. But my thought when I see him now is that this has just got to be intentional self-destruction, okay? Because the ridiculous Jews run the world thing, if they ran the world, people would treat them a lot better. That's all I'm saying, right? Like yeah. if the Jews ran the world in the way that he says, I don't think the story of their path would be nearly what it has been documented to be, right?
Right.
But he's like, the Jews run the world. Okay. if you do believe that the Jews run the world, then you know the Jews ain't going to let you get away with what it is that you are doing right now. Because I do not believe that the Jews run the world, but I do believe that there are Jewish people who run certain companies, and those people ain't going to rock with you. They have learned through the course of time, we can't really give y'all an inch on this stuff, right? We give y'all an inch, and next thing you know, we got to leave. Like we're
exactly.
We're not doing this. Like anytime somebody makes this argument about Jewish people, I'm just like, look, man, if black people ran any segment of things and you was out here talking that Ku Klux, then chances are you're going to have a hard time finding a job, right? Like that's people, that's what it's going to be. So I can only assume that Kanye is trying to burn everything down that he has going. But when he showed up at Skechers unannounced, I was like, oh, he's also trying to die in a hail of gunfire.
Yeah, that one. I saw that. It was like, what? So I guess his plan was he was just going to like go from Adidas to Skechers and just show up without an appointment and be like, looky here.
Here's my question. And look it up. Skechers is like the number 2 footwear brand in the world or something crazy like that. But it's not because they fly, right? Like who is the person at Skechers that you plan to walk in and sell them the idea of these Skechers Yeezys and how that works with their brand? Clearly, they have decided we not getting fly. There's money over here in these other, all kinds of shoe companies making zillions of dollars you ain't never heard of because they had pay less than Walmart. You know what I'm saying? They're like, it's other money out here to get got.
Skechers getting their money off of kitchen staff and nurses, and they're fine with that. and dads who gave up.
Yes.
That is where they're getting their money from. None of them people is like, man, I want to get Kanye. Like, yeah, they got a brand and they are sticking to it. This kind of speaks to Kanye doing a whole bunch of different things. Like, I am never one. I as someone who's had multiple like different careers and have opportunities to go do weird stuff, I'm not against anybody trying new things, but not all at the same time. And Skechers knows quite clearly where their brand is. Kanye like, nah, I'm gonna run a school. I'm gonna do a sports brand. I'm gonna make music. I'm gonna do apparel. I'm gonna do shoes. Like it's a lot for one man, and he's delegating that authority to people like Antonio Brown.
Hey man, who drove him up there? Where we go? Make a left. GPS ain't go right. And then you're like, where we going? Just drive. Oh, God. And then you get there, and I didn't get a great handle on this. Did he walk in unaccompanied, or did he have his people with him? Like, I'm assuming he got a bodyguard or something like that.
You got to have his people with him, which is how you end up getting you show up there with a number of big, scary Negroes, and you just push it around, talk about, let me see the president. Okay. I want to see the CEO. Okay. That they are looking for an opportunity. But the point you made before, like that, the history for Jewish people in this world it's not old, it's recent. And it started with people talking. It started with people with weird opinions about them. So as soon as you pop up with some weird opinions, that's how it, I mean, they're gonna dead that, which is fine. I ain't never getting on a boat with a white man at the helm. Cause the middle damn passage. You better have a black man at the front of that boat if you want me getting on it.
Yeah, no, man, it's not going down. It's not
work for free. I'm not volunteering. No, not never. I know what y'all do. This is just the beginning.
But I'm really just trying to think about this. Like, imagine being a parent and now you got to figure out what you're doing with this kid for at least the rest of the semester.
Imagine being the parent who thought that it was okay to send your kid to Donda Academy, and that same parent now stuck. Like, when you say imagine being a parent, I imagine myself in that position, and I think it's hard. I don't imagine the type of person that would do that, then figuring out what to do.
Hold up. Imagine being not the parent who thought it was a good idea.
Oh, yeah.
But the parent who thought it was a bad idea, but was overruled by the parent who thought it was a good idea.
That's it.
That's the parent that I want to hear about. I want to hear about that phone call. So you see this email that the school just sent?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you have it, huh? Well, open it right now.
You can't tell them. You can't tell them. You got to let them read it themselves.
Yeah. I want you to see what it says because you're going to think I'm lying, right? Nah, you go ahead and look at that. What we going to do now, John?
Gosh,
you know it was that.
They had to pay to go there too. It was dad in most cases. It was. It's sad.
Yeah.
Because fortune favors the brave, and we normally the ones. Like I think there's lots of research to support that we are more we're a lot less risk averse. So women are a lot more risk averse than us. So it's the chances are that the man gonna be like, yeah, this new thing, we can pioneer this. It's gonna be great. Come on,
Well,
Kanye, college dropout.
well, here's the next part too. That same way Kanye showed up at Skechers, just because they say school was closed don't mean ain't nobody showing up. They might not be kids, but I assure you, someone needs to answer some questions. In the words of the late great Stacy in Brooklyn, promises were made, promises must be kept.
I can't imagine. The poor kids, man. Like they don't know no better. Man.
Speaking of not knowing no better, I don't know if Aaron Rodgers counts as not knowing no better, but like, how has Aaron Rodgers not learned at this point in his career that blaming your teammates in interviews is just not the groove? Now, he says that no one had a problem with his truthful criticism in saying that dudes need to be benched. And who knows, maybe none of the dudes that need to be benched recognize they're the people that need to be benched, or maybe they are all the most self-aware people in the world and they recognize the level of truth. But man, the potential for the wheels to come off in this one. Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson are like the opposite dude and the same dude in so many ways right now. But for Rodgers, man, listen, you need to be building these dudes up, man, clearly.
Except so I found real quickly when that quote first came out, and I was involved in like talking about the pre-show meeting for Get Up and then going on and talking about it on Get Up. I found very quickly that there was nowhere for me to go because we all had the same reaction. I was like, yeah, that's whack. Don't do that. And like, as somebody who's on the team, I've used this analogy a bunch, is that there's like a line on teams of us and them. And it seems like you want to be a part of the us. And Aaron's like drawing a circle around himself and saying, this is me, the rest of y'all is them. And that's a terrible way to lead. And it's a terrible way to be the highest paid and best and most talented employee in a building. All that is bad. But once I like exhausted all that and everyone was saying the same thing that I was feeling, I was like challenging myself to figure out, because I think Aaron Rodgers is smart, whether he uses that intellectual horsepower to get to good conclusions or bad ones. I think he's smart. And I think he's been around the game long enough to know that this quote is not, and the same with Russell. Like Russell has to know that telling people that he high need for 4 hours on a flight, it given what we already say about him, he has to know how it's going to be received. So I have no other course but to believe that this was intentional. And so for Russell, I don't understand why it would be intentional. For Aaron, the reason why it could be intentional is I think back in my career and being in locker rooms, and sometimes there are guys who are playing for reasons that we don't understand. Maybe it's money, maybe it's relationships, maybe it's something. And everyone in the locker room is like, why don't they sit that boy down? I know he dating his mama, but they need to sit him down. And I know he got a new contract, but the backup is better. And we all whispering about it. And so it's possible that Aaron is speaking for the locker room. And there are lots of guys in the locker room that are watching these same dudes, whoever they are, go out there and be unprepared and make mistakes and cost the team. And they keep rolling them dudes out there because they have some tie to them or some commitment otherwise. That's the best argument I can have, because Aaron Rodgers did try the positivity. If you look back week to week, his quotes have changed. It was like, it was very optimistic, very optimistic. Then it was, we got to simplify things. They got their ass beat again. Then it's, hey, we got to sit some people down. Like, because it's Aaron Rodgers and he's on the team, it's hard for us to accept, but someone covering this team, it's a reasonable course. Don't worry, we're going to be all right. Don't worry, we're going to be all right. All right, well, maybe we need to simplify things. Hey, changes got to be made. And so, like,
he's run out of answers.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair point, right? Like, he did try the other stuff. Like, once you point that out, NFL gives us short memories, right? You're absolutely correct. He did try the other way, and the other way did not work. And now he's like, all right, well, now we got to get some people on the oak. And I think the part that I hadn't thought about in this is, it isn't 52 dudes messing up plus Aaron Rodgers. Quite honestly, Aaron Rodgers has been in the messing up category to a degree. Aaron Rodgers is not the only person frustrated with these wide receivers. There are other players on the team that are like, man, we need to start putting these dudes on the oak. I had not quite thought about that part. That Rodgers has got to lead them cats too.
I mean, the only reason I ended up there is because like I respect Aaron's intelligence, and I know he knows that when he says something like this, it's not going to be received well outside of the locker room. He has to know that in the locker room, they like, yeah, finally, somebody's saying this. And I assume that he's had these conversations with the coaches, which is why he's gone public, is with he's set with Stefanski, or not Stefanski, LaFleur. Mixing up all these disciples, these Shanahanis, and said, hey, this ain't working. And they still keep doing the same thing. And what it boils down to me to get into more X's and O's of it is their best players outside of Aaron Rodgers on offensive running backs, and they keep trying to do this shotgun run system, which I don't believe you can have like a sustainable run attack from shotgun with a quarterback who's not a real running threat, because Aaron Rodgers is athletic, but he's not a real running threat. They need to put Aaron under center and make this stuff look more like the Shanahan stuff. Get under center, run the stretch, and play action off of that. Like it's not, they don't have the personnel to do it the way that they're trying to do it.
Yeah, no, that one was interesting. The NBA. Did you see the beige rage the other night?
Yes, I did.
Dog, the beige rage. I don't know what happened, but Golden State was playing Phoenix, and Klay Thompson, who, like, first of all, I had just seen Klay Thompson a couple days before on a clip from All the Smoke where they asked him to talk about a funny story from when he was in college. And he told the story about the time that he got popped for possession in his driveway. And it's all in Klay Thompson voice, right? And Klay is like so sincere, but doesn't ever really get dialed up. Like his voice doesn't really raise, but it is obvious when he is peeved. It is just in this distinctly Klay Thompson way. I don't know what about that game was driving Klay Thompson crazy, but Klay Thompson was matched up with Devin Booker. And he just got so, I've never seen anything close to this with Klay Thompson. Like, honestly, I don't know if I've seen anybody in the NBA ever just go off for as long as he did. And he got to go off for as long as he did because he's Klay Thompson, right? So he's like all up in Devin Booker's face, and nobody's afraid. Nobody thinks he's going to go anywhere. He's not going to try to fight you or anything like that. And they finally threw him out the game. I ain't never seen somebody so mad that they were still talking all the way down the tunnel, but nobody had to like wrap him up and take him away. You know what I'm saying? Like he was just mad.
Yeah. I'm a go, but y'all gonna listen to this while I'm walking away. I don't actually want this fight. I gotta be honest with you. When you said the beige rage, all I did was start thinking about fight promotion, and and they said the beige rage, and then I went from that to the Manila in Manila, where you just they just gonna go, not the Thriller in Manila. We just got the Manila versus the Manila in Manila.
Yo, that's it. Klay Thompson, aka the Manila Thriller. or should Devin Booker be the Manila Thriller? We gotta, like, every year we gotta have an annual contest to see who gets to be the Manila Thriller. I could not stop laughing. And again, look, it's probably one game, but the people stuff for Golden State is just going to wind up being interesting. Like, did you see, Kevin Garnett's got a show on Showtime that I feel like I need to watch more because it's Kevin Garnett on television, but it's he and Paul Pierce in his most comfortable role, which is riding behind Kevin Garnett and make a bucket when a bucket needs to be made. Garnett's sitting there with Pierce, and he's like, dog, but, and talking like Kevin Garnett, what y'all don't realize is, man, that championship, that second group come back so arrogant. I saw that. He's just talking about the boosted confidence that comes from all those guys. They want their bread. They want their minutes. So the Warriors got all of that, and Klay Thompson is fighting for his, and Klay Thompson is not the same player. I don't know why any of you just kept sitting around like, well, wait till Klay gets back after 2 devastating injuries around 30. And he was so furious, and everybody tried to have an explanation for it, but it was just like, yo, what got into Klay?
The conversations between like the coach and the players, because like you have end of season meetings and beginning of season meetings, and in basketball it's probably different because the roster is so small. You probably have a lot of other one-on-one interactions with coach or general manager or the team owner and that sort of stuff about where you stand in the organization, what our plans are for you for the future. Those conversations have to be incredibly interesting because they have so many guys that you want to tell people the thing that's going to keep them motivated. And you also want to be honest with them. And the thing that's going to keep all these young guys motivated is we're going to get you more minutes. We're going to start to build around you, which I also think that is a reasonable long. This goes back to what you and I have been talking about before. Is like, can you plan for the future and win right now at the same time? So it seems like they can because they won right now and they seem well positioned for the future. But now the hard stuff hits. Like, how are you going to keep all of these people happy without giving everybody what they want? Because it's zero sum and it's only a certain amount of minutes. Like, you can't add minutes, you can't add play calls. Like, there's only a certain amount, and they're going to be like juxtaposing them or comparing them to each other. Like, man, they doing this for him, they doing this for him. What are they doing for me? What is it? Like, it's a real hard dynamic in such a small little locker room with so many big time personalities and people that's hungry. Like, if you ever work hard for something for like decades plus and you on the doorstep of it and you see something or someone standing in the way, that'll bring out something nasty in you. Take it from me, personal experience. It'll turn you into somebody that you don't want to be. And then afterwards you sort it out later.
So what would you turn into if you were playing with the great Taupe Hope, Ben Simmons, over there in Brooklyn? Because like, I used to do a show with Pablo while he would ride for Ben Simmons, and it took years off my life. And I've been watching you on Debatable, and now you in my chair watching him continue to ride for Ben Simmons. And it is like, I just don't know how anybody can continue to do that at this point. Because see, this is what I think we saw in this Milwaukee game with Ben Simmons that's worth noting. Now, granted, he was dealing with somewhat of an outlier situation, but I think you'll feel me. This argument about, we'll just play Ben Simmons as a small ball five. Problem with that is he's a small five. And I don't think you have to go small to deal with Ben Simmons as a small ball five, because Ben Simmons can't / won't shoot. So he's out there trying to guard Giannis. And Giannis is just out here making a mockery of his existence, right? And so Ben Simmons says, I think through this point in the season, as we record this, 21 points and 18 fouls. What?
Good. Yeah, it's not good. The it's weird when you have skills that are like super high level, but are not at all complimentary or suitable, you know, like it's, and that's what it feels like with him is he has such impressive high level skills that are unique that people are like, man, this dude's going to be great. But his weaknesses are such that they can be exploited and that you can sometimes neutralize those really impressive skills that he has. And to be like the best small ball five, I guess there is or no, that's not fair. The closest thing to what I think Ben Simmons could be is Draymond Green, and like in his best case scenario, which requires a unique roster, and it also requires a mindset that it seems clear that Ben Simmons, I saw Ben Simmons get riled up about one call in one game. I don't know that I've ever seen that otherwise. And yeah, I've never done it. I don't know what it takes, but it seems like the mental toughness or whatever that is giving Ben Simmons a hard problem is like the biggest issue, but there are also like technical issues in his style of play. So I don't know. I think what happens with a lot of people, and I'm guilty of it also, which is why I can recognize it, is you get in on a take and you get in on a person and you just don't want to let it go. You just want to be right. And he gives you just enough to feel like, excuse me, to feel like you still can be right. Yeah. And he just wrong, man. It's just
wrong.
The
argument that the most ardent Simmons defenders try to make is, well, what you need to do is put him on a team with 4 shooters. Like, that easy to do. Right? Like the argument behind putting him on the floor with 4 shooters assumes that you can just readily find 4 guys who not only can shoot, but in composite can do all the other basketball things a team needs, including all the things Ben Simmons cannot do and refuses to do. So like you think about the Warriors at their best, that's 3 shooters. They just happen to be 3 of the most incredible shooters that you've ever seen, but that's really 3 shooters. Or you look at like the starting lineups for the Warriors through that entire run. It's the first championship. I mean, maybe if you count Harrison Barnes as a shooter, I would not do that. I would say he's a guy who could shoot, but they had 2 shooters.
Yeah.
Like that was it. They're out there playing with big men. You're not going to be able to play extended stretches of basketball with 4 guys on the floor who are able to shoot to offset this other dude. Like they just don't make that many players who are capable of that thing. And look, Durant been cool about it up to this point, but if he's me, everything I was salty about is happening.
Yeah.
Everything I said was a problem is a problem.
The shooting is probably the most like sought after skill like in basketball right now. It's the hardest to find. This is why people like Duncan Robinson get monster deals. Like it's if you can find a guy who can shoot, if he can't do a whole bunch of other stuff, that's fine. He can get paid. So the idea that they're all out there and you just gotta pick them up, like that's impossible. And also that would be building around him. And it seems clear that whatever like it takes, I don't want to like fall into like alpha cliches and nonsense like that. But if nothing else, he don't got it to be the guy. Like that's you could make everybody who's in NBA has some really unique skills, impressive skills, and has some shortcomings. If I'm going to construct my whole roster around addressing your shortcomings, you better be that dude.
Yo, that's what I'm saying. Like
that's
so
it.
much about talking about him requires you. Like this is the problem the Sixers had. So much of what they were doing was not built around the strengths of Embiid. It was about trying to mask the weaknesses of Simmons. And look, this team don't have that many good players. Like when you go look at it, it's Kevin Durant, it's Kyrie Irving, and that's really all we talk about. I saw something early at the beginning of this week or like early this week. I don't know if this still holds. But the starting lineup in the NBA that had the worst plus minus was the Nets starting lineup.
That's gross.
Right.
I watched their game on Wednesday night against the Bucks, and Ben Simmons, I actually thought was like, it had me wondering like, why is there so much heat around having a conversation about Ben Simmons? Because he was a high draft pick and there are so high expectations for him. But what he provided for the team was like a decent role player. Like I feel like he was an asset to the team even without scoring. But he needs to be so much more. He's paid like so much more. They expect so much more from him. And I think that's part of it. And just because he does things that people don't like. But at least in that particular game, they lost. And I guess to your point, Giannis gave him the work. But he didn't seem like the problem in the way that, like, honestly, Russell Westbrook kind of feels like.
Well, he felt like the problem until they went and played the Nuggets without Michael Porter. It got their doors blown off.
Yeah.
Right. I woke up after that game and I saw a report that said that they were thinking about benching Russell Westbrook for Austin Reeves. And I'm like, if you do that, you better do that on Zoom. Can you imagine? Like Darvin Ham, the only one that you can feel like, all right, we're going to have to do this, right? Because look, the day comes and they tell Russ this ain't working. Security gonna have to walk him out. Like you're not like this. They gonna have to treat him like every other employee and be like, all right, your things are in the box. This man's gonna help you to your car. Don't touch me, man.
Yeah, I can't imagine. But I don't think he wants to be there. But still, yeah, the embarrassment of it. At least it feels like they don't want him there. He don't want to be there. But maybe I'm just projecting. Maybe Russ still wants to be there. I'm just projecting how I would feel in that situation. It's like,
oh, I think he really wants to be there because I think he really wants to play for the Lakers, and I think he really wants to be in Los Angeles. Like, I don't know the dude, right? I admit that I'm doing a large measure of guessing. Like, maybe he doesn't want to be on that roster as it's constructed. Right. But the saddest part of it for me to watch is he seems so very clearly to be in his own head. Yeah. Right? Like that jump shot he took, for example, that's an in your head move. Like he seems so clearly to be there. But Russell Westbrook isn't giving us a drop of vulnerability. That's not his bag, right? He's not giving you any indication of those things. So it's all going to come out as a measure of surliness. And I'm like, where does Russell Westbrook go? at a time like this, because this has to feel terrible. This has to feel awful, and he can't give us none of that.
Yeah, that's what I keep feeling is like he's been great. He's a Hall of Famer. Like, and for people who hate a lot of people hate on what how he actually contributes to winning or losing. That's fine if you own a team, you're a GM, or you're a fan of a team. I've never really been a fan of any specific team, but I just always enjoyed watching him play because the shit was cool. Simple as that. And I hate this now where he's like in the like most popular team, getting all this attention, and it's just bad year after year. And like, I know people gonna say, but he get all his money and whatever, blah, 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 it's so cool. That don't change the way it feel when it don't feel good. And I'm watching him and just thinking like, this gotta be like debilitating. And this is where being a basketball player is so much tougher. Cause like when I have a bad game or a bad series of game as a football player, a normal sized dude, I go out in the world and don't nobody know me. And it's fine. Like Russell have to be in his own head when he's on the floor, and he got to be in his own head when he grocery shopping or he trying to go to the movies or whatever. Every time he out, people recognize him, and he know that not nobody who cares about basketball in LA likes him right now. And that sucks. There ain't enough money in the world to make that like feel better. And maybe you can buy your own movie theater. You don't have to deal with these people, but
and sucks. Also, it's at the crib. This is the man who put up a 20-20-20 triple double in honor of Nipsey. Like he that kind of LA, right?
Yeah.
And he's a good dude.
Yeah.
Like they all want to go there. But meanwhile, and I'm gonna just say this right fast because we're getting toward the end. We keep talking about all of this when the real disaster that's going on right now is in Philadelphia. Because if things don't change there, people are going to get fired. And I'm going to say this, okay? I'm not particularly informed in this. I'm not telling you that somebody told me something that I said at the end of last season, if you're Embiid, you got to force your way out of this. This is not the place that you want to be. They are now running the James Harden offense, basically, in Philadelphia. If you're Embiid, you're going to need to get out of here. This got to be your last year here if this is the path that they're going to be taking. I'd be trying to get out of there pronto.
And you said some things got to change. If things don't get right, the thing that's going to change is Doc Rivers, which then they're going to go to D'Antoni, and that's going to get even more hardness of the offense. So, yeah, I think you might be right about that. Whereas just trying to think where he's going to end up or what he's going to do, but he probably not going to do nothing. It seems like he seems committed to that place and those fans, and I guess everybody sees that way until
they don't. They're all committed until they realize, wow, this commitment is a horrific idea.
Yeah, but he's protected, it feels like, in a way that other superstars aren't. And maybe it's the big man of it or something. I don't know what it is, but we don't, or maybe it's the injuries. We don't talk about him not winning the big one in the same way. And it might also
because he was out there. He was out there with Ben Simmons, right?
So he had that protection.
Hardened. Like there are other people to blame. It's the same way that Kevin Durant didn't really get the hell for it when he had Russell Westbrook. Like we can't really focus. We only identify one loser at a time. Right? Like this, it's always one loser's fault.
Yeah. Right.
That's what we got. But that Domonique Foxworth. Check him out on the Domonique Foxworth Show. Check him out on Get Up. Check him out on Anscape. Check him out on Debatable. Check him out on the Mina Kime Show. Did I leave anything out?
Every time you say it, I get sad. Like, man, I should have another comma for all this stuff I'm doing.
It's appreciated, man. Also, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget 860-516-4119. That's the voicemail number. Tell us about that time your mama or daddy came home early. You know what I mean? Whatever it was, they came home early. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We do this 3 times a week. Parker Owens and Adi Khan handling things behind the scenes. Thank you, gentlemen. Also, thank you for watching on YouTube. Remember, follow The Right Time. Rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars, I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. We'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. Take it easy.